life. Are y'all comprehending that? They took a life without thought. They deserved the full extent of the law.
The Florida sheriff getting emotional after announcing two kids have been arrested in the murder of 3 teens. One of the suspects, who we won't show, just 12 years old. The third suspect still at large. Officials say all of the juveniles were involved in gangs. Here to react, Jack Brewer is the founder and CEO of the Jack Brewer Foundation. Jack, great to see you this morning. I think you are probably the perfect person to address this. You're not only in Florida, you have addressed and worked with troubled youth. What do you see here, Jack, when you see this story that right now, is arrest and allegation and not yet conviction, but we hear the certainty and the emotion in that sheriff's voice? What's your reaction?
These are hard moments for me personally. Every day, Will, and every week that we walk into the prison, I try to help rehabilitate men, a lot of them that committed their crimes at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. Many of them murder. And so, I do have some love for them and some understanding that the vast majority of them grew up in some harsh, just unimaginable environments where they didn't have fathers at home. They had environments where people taught them to use a gun as a normal way of defense. And when you have a child that's this young, that is possessed with these type of evil demons in their mind, they're capable of anything. But this sheriff is right. We must start holding these children accountable. The Department of Justice put out numbers that showed that arrests for violent crimes went down 67%, Will. I don't believe that, and the only reason why they did is because now when you go to these communities, they don't arrest these kids. You go to these schools and these SOO officers don't arrest these kids because they don't allow them to anymore. And so we've got to start holding them accountable, but more importantly, their parents. Where are the parents in America? Yeah. Parents need to be held accountable for the actions of their children, and there's too many. These kids that you see were fatherless. There's too many kids that were fatherless in our streets right now, harassing and devastating our communities.
So Jack, I'm going to play this clip, and then I want to ask you a question on the other side. This clip is the County Sheriff Billy Woods addressing exactly what you just brought up, accountability.
The fact is, society fails it. We do not hold our juveniles accountable. School districts across this state and across this nation need to quit minimizing the actions of their students. Hold them accountable. That's where the failure is.
So Jack, here's I guess my question for you. Here's what I want you to help me, if you could, understand. And I'm torn, Jack. On one hand, I have a son who's going to turn 12 in a few weeks. I cannot imagine him committing an act like what we just saw potentially take place there in Florida. On the other hand, I do have some experience, like you have much greater experience, in being involved in these kids who are lost in the system, okay? Parents have absolutely failed these children. They're absent from their lives. Whatever takes over their lives, the streets, the foster care, quite honestly, it's hard to comprehend how bad it is until you see it firsthand. So my question for you, Jack, is how do we introduce accountability in a system where no one takes ownership or responsibility?
There's only one way. You've got to go in and let the parents know that if your child does something like this, they're going to jail with them. You got to stop sitting back, because parents will be held accountable if you hold them accountable. And when you have kids that are 12, 13, 14 years old that are in these public schools, when they're out fighting, or when you see things on their social media, or you see these type of situations that we've had here in Florida, where you literally have diversion programs that aren't diverting them. And so the programs that we have here in Florida that work are the programs that get to the kids at a younger age, Will. You cannot wait. When you have a responsibility from the school districts to report these things. When they don't report these things to our diversion programs here in Florida, they can't work. And so the schools have to take responsibility. But again, if the schools are held accountable, that means that these kids are going to be put in the juvenile justice system earlier. That means that these kids are going to be forced to respect their SRO officers. These school resource officers, Will, I talk to them all the time. They have taken away their authority and their power. And so that needs to change, and that's the only way that we're going to see a change in our nation.
It's a mess, and it's a mess that I know you're trying to help clean up, which is, you know what, Jack? I guess we'll end it with this. An example of a person who's attempting to take responsibility, to take ownership, to impose some sense of accountability. And for that, we appreciate you, Jack Brewer. Thank you.
No, God bless you, brother. And just pray for them, too, Will.
Yeah.
Pray for them. These kids need prayer, man. They need God, man.
Yeah.
They need God in their lives.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack.
Most of these
so
kids
much.
don't even know who God is, brother.
Yeah, we will. We will pray. Thank you.